Hey, back, it's me, Ian, and in today's video, we're going to have a look at this. Yes, it is Lamb from 2021. Yes, you may be wondering, hey, what's he doing now? Well, I'll tell you why I'm talking about this because, well, I've just been so blown over by it. And yet, I realize this film is not going to be liked by a lot of people. They're going to find it slow. They're going to find it silly, even. They may just think it's daft. They'll think it's just a waste of time. I know, I can hear them. Because, you know, um, even though it's described as folk, horror, fantasy. It's very much what we used to say in olden days. It's an art house film. That's what they might say. But it didn't. I think that's always very dismissive of things. But this is a real gem. It's to me, it's absolutely wonderful. It's not playing safe, is it really? And I like that. And it's an Icelandic film. In other words, you might have to work a bit because there's subtitles that you have to follow. Now, that's not everybody's cup of tea. They can't do it. I don't know what it is. I can understand why people, do this, but I love film and I like to see um, just of the variety of genres that we get. And um, foreign language films, there's nothing wrong at all. Absolutely nothing wrong at all in that. You get such a lot sometimes from them. But this film, I think, will divide a lot of people, really. But those that are like me that love it, then really do love it. And, you know, it's the kind of film that on each time you watch it, you discover something new about it. That's the depth. It's not a quick popcorn movie, and nothing wrong with that. Because I enjoy that. But this is a film that builds up in your mind, and the images in it and the atmosphere. People also get stuck in narratives and how narratives should be portrayed, and this film has its own way of doing that as well. And it kind of along the way gives you clues about what is going to happen and what has happened, the past as well. And I think sometimes people miss these things, but that's one of the things you sort of speculating almost as you're watching it. Where's it going to go? What's going to happen? And then on a second watch, you might think, "Wow, yeah, I missed that before," or now I understand why the characters did this and why they did that. Um, and that's very important, I think. In my enjoyment of this film, I can't say enough about it. I mean, it's good. An Icelandic film. It did have other international finance as well. It's these are kind of low budget films, but yeah, as a even on such a low budget, it's absolutely wonderful, and that's all down to the script. It's all down to the cinematography, the director, the vision that they have. Because I think this was a film that wasn't just suddenly dreamt up, and because it was released sort of that time with the pandemic, just sort of things opening up. And actually, in America, the release date was the same uh, uh, date as the James Bond No Time to Die was released. So it was obviously up against it. But this is what I mean. The fact that this is such almost an independent film. It was taken on by A24, and I think that would have given it a lot more push. Is really outstanding, and it made now 300 $1.2 million box office. I mean, it speaks for itself. The film is 86. Sorry, no. The film is, let me read that, it's 106 minutes long. Again, some people say it's far too long, that, by heck. No, it's fine. I love it. I love the way it just goes along. The 86 that I said was actually the Rotten Tomato score. So the critics have actually, most of them have been very favourable and kind to it, which is good. Others perhaps have sneered as well at it. This film's vision is really from the director, and this is his debut. His name is Vladimir Johansson, Icelandic bloke. So some of my pronunciations of these names make not very good, but anyhow, you'll see. And he co-wrote this with somebody called who's famous in Iceland. No, I'd say it's Sjorn, Sjourn, Sjorn, who is a poet, novelist, screenwriter, and I found this really interesting. He collaborates with Björg. Now, Björg is a famous, wonderful singer from Iceland, and she is just, I love Björg, yeah. But there she is, she's got a connection with this film through the co-writer. And the script, as you can tell, they really developed this script as they were going along. And then I think we'll look at the three principal actors. It isn't a very large cast anyhow. Now, the star billing, I suppose, would go to Noomi Rapace. I think that's it, Rapace. Yeah, Noomi Rapace. She's a Swedish actress who was actually born, as a child, spent time in Iceland, and knew the language, so she could speak the language. Now, she plays the character Maria. She's the main sort of character. She's perhaps internationally known, playing in the trilogy, the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo trilogy. She's in those three films, so she's already very well respected. And to take on this film was great, and she really did take on the film. She's involved in, living on a farm, learning about, birthing lambs, all this sort of atmosphere. She's very much into it. So she's the lead actress. Then we've got the two others. Now, her husband, his play is called Ingvar, and he's played by Ilmir Sneer Gudansson. I think Gudansson. That's it. And he's a very important role, as they all have in this, the actors. I say he plays Ingvar, her husband. And then we've got Petu. Petu is Ingvar's brother, who appears in the film. Who, again, he's a very important part of the film. He's played by Bjorn Huno. So you're saying as Haraldsson. Haraldsson, yeah. I know often these names they'll put the son on the end like we do. So it's Haraldsson. So he very important role. There is the part of Ada, which is I can give you certain bits away about the film. Ada is the substitute child, you could say, the hybrid lamb human that comes into their lives. And Ada was also the daughter they lost. So it's interesting. That's an important. Well, that's what all the film centers on in some ways. The loss of their child and bringing happiness back from that loss. But there's so many questions involved in that. The I think I just want to point out a few other things about this. I rather like the music in this film, the soundtrack. It was composed by, again, another Icelandic person, Padarin, I think, Gudansson, I think, something like that. The music has this sort of classical folk kind of thing. Does that? I love this feel, the classical music feel to it. It fits that sort of isolation beautifully, because I think this film, when I say it is about the cinematography, that is so true, and the way the director does that, the way he's able to show these beautiful landscapes, but there's almost a sort of it's like being in the wilderness. It's remote from civilization almost, and it's interesting when you look inside the farmhouse. The sort of bits of modern civilization are there, but they're still living, I suppose, as you would do, in an isolated environment. And this is reflected in all that they do, and how they see life. But I think when we first meet Maria, she's very much sort of numbed with life, still got this loss with her about a daughter. She's not really going anywhere to some extent. She's just existing, and the seasons are passing by, and life, that is life. It's not offering much more than existence and the way of the life, and they're coming to terms with that. And therefore, when this miraculous event happens, it's something important that changes things. It's almost like she's been waiting for something to happen, existing but waiting, and then this event comes into her life. It's almost like you can see, it's almost like a religious thing, and she embraces it very quickly, that this hybrid is born, a lamb but also human, and we get hints of what has created this, the entity, the sinister side, that you just see what has created this, and that again has religious connotations. But the religious aspects are not Christian; they're more like pagan kind of symbols, and the pagan mythology we get. If you look at the right at the end of the film, you can see the similarities with the pagan gods Pan, and the relationship between beast and man, which goes deep into all our psyches. So many films have looked at that, about the crossover and how life is, fertility, everything is all there in this film. And some people would find it ludicrous, too much, but it isn't. It's done in such a beautiful way. And the characters, another aspect of this film which I really like, and I think shows the acting skills as well of this, is for times there's not much dialogue, or there's bits of dialogue, but it's all expressed through their bodies, through their eyes, the way they look at each other, the way they just have the silence is almost speaking in itself is a conversation. And then the dialogue shows more development in their characters as they're living their day-to-day lives. And then when this comes into their life, Ada, they embrace that totally. And it brings, as she says in the film, it brings happiness. Happiness, yes, happiness. And then when the brother comes in, the brother is interesting because he represents almost at first the outsider's view of what's going on. And he's a more metropolitan kind of character. He's very much involved in, has been, life in the cities and towns, whereas they're not really involved in that. And he comes in and he's got an interesting past, very colourful, interesting past, which we see as well. But he brings another dimension in his relationships. A, his relationship with his brother, and B, his relationship with Maria as well, which is interesting. So that is another dynamic to the character. Because at first he seems to be pointing out the absurdity of all this, and then he kind of embraces it himself, but yet with still reservations. And he fully, because he realizes it's making Maria happy. And if she's happy, then her husband, Ingvar, is happy too, and he embraces it as well. But there's always that feeling that something will stop this happiness, or something round the corner will come back. There's a feeling that if you take something from nature, which perhaps they have done, then it will come back to you. This theme about the forces coming back to set the balance right, or to make things how they should be rather than how we want them to be. God, he's getting a bit deep here, aren't I? But it's the sort of film where you start to think of all these ideas. This is what I love about this film. What gives me such real pleasure in watching this film is that atmosphere and just the look of the landscapes and the way the characters are in that. It's just beautiful. Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. And yet, what is going on? There's a lot going on, even though it appears there's not a lot going on. Some people say, hey, God, it's a bit slow, isn't it? It's life. It's how we see life. And these characters are an expression of all those ideas about life and this environment. You see, you can get to a point where, so what I often love about sort of folk horror stroke fantasy is that it reminds us that the world isn't always what we think it is. We get very certain about things, and then suddenly uncertainty comes into our life. And this reminds us of that. It also reminds us that maybe sometimes we've become too cut off from nature, from what gives us our feelings, what directs our motivations in life, because we get involved in this environment now. Or sometimes we don't. Sometimes we exist, we live, but we don't really stretch our imaginations. We don't think about things enough. We just let things pass by, and that's very sad, very sad. Anyhow, I seem to have gone on a lot here. There's so many other areas to discuss. But I think if you're interested in this kind of thing, then I think you would enjoy this film. I do like doing things different sometimes that are not always predictable kind of films. And I know this is certainly not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But I wanted to show you and express it and why I liked it. Don't worry, we'll get back to all other stuff. But I still like putting in things. I like to... It's just me being me. I just like to show other things, not always predictable. And this film falls into that. And I love it. And, well, That's it. That's all I'm going to say. So, as usual, I'm going to say, please subscribe. It means that we'll let you know when these videos come out and all that kind of stuff. And please, it does help with the algorithm, so they say, whatever that means. If you give it a like, if you like it, that means more people will know that it's and that's good because people, and it costs note. I always say that it costs note. So there you are. So all I've got to say is, I'll see thee, and I'll see thee again.